Use this thread for those that have been affected by the suicide of someone to tell your story, or if you yourself have almost ended your life, tell us about what changed. My mom was about to commit suicide after getting diagnosed with depression and nothing seemed to help. Before she could go through with it, she walked by the room my sister and I shared, and saw us laughing. We were watching Inside Out, I remember, and she realized how we'll be crying instead of laughing if she goes through with it, so she didn't do it. She hit a rough patch, but she tried ketamine and it really seemed to work her. She's doing a lot better now. If I'm not good enough for anyone, I might as well kill myself. Spare them the misery of having to be a burden to them. I cannot emphasize just how much this thought races in my mind when shit hits the fan. There have been times when I would just go through with it because I felt worthless, and then stop because I realized that I do care enough about something. I care enough to want to do more of it. If you're reading this, please think of something that you really care for, be it a hobby, passion, people, pets, or anything really. Please realize that suicide is a permanent stop to everything that your life could be. I came close last fall, or at least what I think is close. I was under a lot of pressure at college, and my depression and anxiety had both kicked up. I was walking between campus buildings, saw a car drive down the street, and thought about walking out in the middle of the road. Another time, I looked at a roof access door and wondered if it was locked, thinking it would be so easy. I'm a lot better now. What scares me looking back is the difference from then to now. Now I would think those things and immediately shake it off. At the time, the thought just sat there. That was the darkest place I've ever been, and the closest I've ever come. I thank my lucky stars it's never been as close as some. Take care of yourselves, folks. This version of normal doesn't have to be the norm. I used to babysit a kid who terrified me. Really, my job was to protect his younger siblings from him. He had rage issues his whole life, and at that time, there was no help available. In that neighborhood, nobody official would have cared about any one of us. We got confirmation every day that we were all worthless prisoners. So this kid, this family, they were not going to get help. He killed himself at 12 because he didn't want to hurt anyone anymore. Today he could have been helped. It's been 30 years and it hurts. I have never forgotten him. He deserved a chance. Those of you who have children, please know that their issues are very real to them. The emotional lives of children are so important. When we dismiss the seriousness of their troubles, we teach them not to ask for help because it won't be coming. We teach them to fight their own battles and to save it for your therapist, and it's just a little bullying, they'll get over it. Kids are resilient. Listen to your kids. Don't look for excuses not to. I was going to say that kids are now committing suicide younger and younger, but I look at the historical record and I see the euphemisms and the flimsy cover stories. This problem has always been with us, just on a smaller scale. Please have a conversation with your kids about how they're feeling in general, even if you think you don't need to. Especially if you think you don't need to. I work at Poison Control. One of our main jobs is to provide advice to hospitals caring for patients who have overdosed. I will never forget one teenage girl who took an overdose of Tylenol, and apparently regretted it shortly afterwards but was afraid of telling anyone. She didn't tell anyone until 3 days later. She walked into the ER awake and talking and died waiting for a liver transplant. She left behind a heartbroken family and more friends than she realized she had. If you come to the hospital within a few hours of taking pills, it can be fixed. Don't be afraid to get the help you need. As my occasional depression slowly starts to turn less occasional and more regular, I'm scared where it'll take me. 2 days ago I thought about killing myself, and it was the first time I have ever had suicidal thoughts. I can only imagine how it feels to have regular thoughts like that. Although I constantly battle my emotions, I would never take my own life. My family, my friends, and my girlfriend all shine a light in my life. I could never do that to them. Those suffering, I feel for you. I know times are tough, but you're tougher. I know you're tougher because you're still here. You're still fighting. You're not alone. I'm 19 years old and last week I took a fatal amount of prescription drugs hoping to end my life along with a sleeping aid so I wouldn't be awake through it. I woke up violently vomiting and extremely upset because I shouldn't be here. I still think about suicide every day, but not in a really depressed way. I feel more like I'm a background character just going with the flow, not doing anything to differentiate myself from others. My father hung himself 4 years ago, and it caught all of our family by total surprise. But in retrospect, the signs were there. I still wish I had seen them more clearly. If I could share a few things I've learned upon reflection, and losing my pops. Don't be harsh with your loved ones when they're struggling. Don't negate sadness or depression, their struggle is real, despite your inability to experience it. Listen. Be open, be vulnerable. See the clues. My dad never said I'm hurting, but he did exhibit signs. Don't judge. Don't try to fix. This is a struggle that can't be fixed by logic, by words, by an external force. This person needs to want to change, internally, and there's no magic solution like a job, money, or relationship that can do it. All you can do is listen, empathize, and love. Be there. Don't hide from the unpleasantness that is depression, face it with your loved one who struggles. Let them know their pain is your pain, and you are in this together. I miss my dad. Damn, this thread is heavy. So much pain from so many different people. For what it's worth, this internet stranger is rooting for you. I tried to kill myself 15 years ago due to chronic shooting pain in my head that no one could diagnose. Luckily I failed and eventually they went away on their own. I have a good life and a great family right now. My son was recently diagnosed with chronic headaches and I've never been more terrified that once he gets tired of living in pain he's going to follow in my footsteps. He is in therapy but I am just so scared. I was suicidal for years, I'm now on medication and am much more stable, emotionally. The itch to end my life hasn't gone away, but it's now an impulse that I can control, logic my way out of, and distract myself from. I see so many posts after tragedies like these, saying things like talk to me if you need help, and those are good. But, it's not enough. Seek out people in your life who are depressed or seem off. Listen to them, empathize with them. Don't treat their feelings as trivial, regardless of what you think of their life. Have unconditional positive regard for every human being you encounter. Not everyone who is depressed or suicidal will reach out. For some, it's too hard, or they don't want to bother people, or they don't think they're worth it. That's where we, the stable people in their lives, need to do better. It's not our responsibility to save them, or even make them feel loved. It's our job to listen and do the best we can to be a good human being. So, I'm working my ass off, and barely making ends meet. I have no spare time, no friends, no joy. I live hoping to make it. It's what keeps the suicidal thoughts at bay. Now, it seems there's so many successful people committing suicide. It's incredibly discouraging. It's like, even if I get ahead in life, it might still not be worth living. I've been suicidal for years. Chronic depression and bipolar will do that. My young children keep me alive. A few years ago my dad attempted suicide. He and my mom had divorced, and he wasn't coping well. Drinking a lot, punching holes in the walls, though never any violence beyond that. He messaged me one night while I was getting McDonald's with my then boyfriend. I distinctly remember the fries being perfectly hot and salty for some reason. His message said, "I love you," for about 20 lines on my phone. I panicked and said we needed to go home. When I arrived, my grandfather was there, along with the police and an ambulance. I was 100% sure he had died. No one would let me into the house or let me see what had happened. Moments later, a few police officers walked him out of the house, helping to carry him since he was so drunk. He was taken to the hospital. When he called me the next morning, he said, "I can't tell you how happy I was to wake up today. I'm so glad I failed." I've been struggling with depression and bipolar all my life. It's getting worse now that I'm older. I broke down to my girlfriend about a month ago, bawling. Admitted I was tired of life in general and that I just don't have faith in myself as a person. I feel bland and boring and my social anxiety just always makes it worse in social situations. That brings me to this, I'm out of town this weekend to hang out with my girlfriend's friends and I don't know them too well. I really need help coping and trying to enjoy myself. I'm worried if I don't enjoy myself and let my anxiety get the best of me, I'll spiral even worse when I get back home. From any adjusted person, any help?